So I was talking to a friend the other day who's a long-standing fan of Challenger and has worked with organizations all over the world on Challenger, and he had just read the Framemaking Sale, and was over the moon excited about it. And here's how he expressed his excitement. He said, "Brent, this book is such a game changer. It really isn't just a methodological change. It captures an ontological change." Say what now? There's not a lot of people that would describe the Framemaking Sale as an ontological change, but frankly, he's right, which only begs the question, what the heck does that even mean, right? What is ontology? And frankly, it sent me running to the dictionary, to be totally honest. This is a term I'd been involved with heavily back in my graduate student days when I was doing very different things for a career. But ontology, or an ontological question, is a question about our perception of reality. So wondering whether or not this existence around us is real, or that actually we all live on a holodeck, is an ontological question. And in many ways, that's not to put too fine of a point on it, but that's kind of what we're doing in the Framemaking Sale, is not just asking a tactical or methodological question. Should we stop doing these kinds of sales behaviors and engage in those kinds of sales behaviors? Although we do absolutely get into that tactical question. Rather, we start with and end with a higher order question, an ontological question around what exactly is the nature of the reality that we are all sort of operating in today, at least from a commercial standpoint. What is the B2B buying and selling reality that we must understand today in order to sell more effectively, and given whatever methodology or methodological tactics that we're going to use? And that reality is really the heart and soul of the book. And it's a reality in which customers, frankly, are not just struggling to buy because they're overwhelmed with, too much information and decision complexity and outcome uncertainty and objective misalignment, all the things we talk about in the book. But it's just a reality. It's our day-to-day reality of all of us, where we all feel kind of overwhelmed. We all feel kind of confused. We all feel kind of resigned to just sort of, duck and cover and sort of stay out of the way in whatever part of our lives we may be talking about, it seems. But certainly when it comes to large, complex B2B purchases, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to in the last 2 or 3 months. Not surprisingly, I talked to a lot of sales enablement executives right now, and many of them, for example, say, I remember, it's not that long ago, or maybe in this month or this week, I was involved in a purchase in our own organization of some sort of enablement software or enablement platform. And I got to tell you, Brent, it was overwhelming. There was just so many different options, so much information, so many just, sellers and vendors just sort of pawning their wares. That's an ontological question. That is our reality that we live in. And we've got to understand what that looks like, and more importantly, what it feels like from the perspective of our customers, to understand what would be most helpful to them in that specific ontological context. How do we need to show up tactically, practically, and engage those individuals, not so much as they like us more or trust us more. That, at the end of the day, is a byproduct of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is help them feel more confident, not in us, but in themselves, such that they're more likely to make a decision, any decision, and perhaps maybe a bigger decision, a better decision, and a decision that they feel better about. And to solve for that, we need to understand their reality. We need to understand the reality in which we all operate today, and understand how we, tactically speaking, methodologically speaking, can be more helpful. And that's what frame making is all about. It's how do we show up in such a way that we help our customers feel not so much more confident in us, but more confident in themselves in a very practical, tactical, methodological way. But we can't get there until we first understand the ontological reality. Next week, tune in for the hermeneutical circle. Cheers, everybody.